Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be playing the Street Pair Roulette Strategy. So the way it works, we're going to be using the street bets. We're going to be using a pair as a one bet. So the way we're going to make our bet selection is based on the last outcome. So for example, the last outcome being number 34, I'm going to cover the street with 34. The opposite of 34 is number 9. I'm going to cover that street also. So now that's my first street pair. I am not going to cover more than 3 street pairs at one point in time. So that's a total of 6 street bets. The progression we're going to be using is a 3 count. So let's get started. As we go along, I'll show you exactly how it works. So I'm using a 500 unit bankroll for this strategy. That is my stop loss. My target per session is 10 units. When I've made 10 units on every session, I am going to take a break of 5 to 10 minutes and then come back again and play for another 10 units profit. So let's get started. This is spin number 1. So I have a hit on spin number 1. I have made my target of 10 units per session. So I am going to take a break, 5 to 10 minute break. So I'm just going to force a spin, pretend that I took a break. Now you are not going to do that, guys. You're going to actually take that break. Even though you have had a hit on the first spin, you're going to take that break and then come back again. So let's get started. Number 11 came. We cover the street with number 11. The opposite of 11 is number 28. So that is our first pair. This is spin number 1. So I lose on spin number 1. I am going to rebet. The last outcome was number 25. I am going to cover number 25, and number 14 is the opposite of 25. So I have 2 pairs or 4 streets. So this is spin number 2. I lose on spin number 2. I am going to rebet. I add the street with number 3. The opposite of 3 is number 23. So that is my maximum bets there. That's 3 pairs or 6 streets. So this is spin number 3. So I have a hit on spin number 3. Now I'm just breaking even. I'm back to 10 units in profit. But when you have a hit on spin number 3, you are going to keep your bets to the same and just restart the entire count back at 1. So let's say we were betting 3 units covering 6 streets, and we had a hit on spin number 3. We were going to keep our bets at 3 units. We're going to restart at 1 pair, which is 2 streets. So for example, we were going to restart with 27 and 18, but we were going to be using 3 units as our base bet. That is if we had a 1 on spin number 3 covering with 3 units. So let's see if we can have a losing streak as we go along. I can explain better about that. So this is spin number 1. We restarted the entire progression, playing for anything greater than 10 units. Our overall target for the session is going to be 20 units. So we lose on spin number 1. I'm going to rebet. I cover the street with number 21. The opposite of 21 is number 1. This is spin number 2. So I lose on spin number 2. I rebet. I cover the street with number 28. Opposite of 28 is number 11. So this is my maximum amount of streets. I'm covering 6 streets. This is spin number 3. So I lose on spin number 3. I lose all 3 spins. I'm going to rebet my 6 streets. I'm going to add 1 unit to each of my bets. Restart the count back at 1. This is spin number 1. So I have a hit on spin number 1. Now I am just breaking even. I'm back to 10 units in profit, but when you have a hit on spin number 1, you are going to minus 1 unit from your bet and continue the count. So now you're breaking even. You can restart the entire progression back at spin number 1, but I'm just going to show you what I mean when you minus 1 unit from your base bet. So our base bet was 2 units. We're going to minus 1. We're using 1 unit as our base bet. The last outcome was 19. The opposite of 19 is 16. We covered those 2 streets. Now we're going to continue the count. So this is spin number 2. Now you don't have to continue the count when you're breaking even, but I'm just showing you if you want to do it, you can. But if you restart the entire progression, you would have an extra spin in hand, so you would protect your bankroll a little bit better. So the opposite of 25 is number 14. I cover those 2 streets. Now this is spin number 3. So I lose on spin number 3. The opposite of 10 is number 26. So I rebet. I cover 10. Now 26 is already covered. So I'm just going to cover a random street. Let's cover the first street. So now I have my maximum of 6 streets. I can't cover anything more than that. This is that was spin number 3. Now I have no choice because I've reached the end of my count. I'm using a 3 count. I have no choice but to increase each of my bets by 1 unit. I am now going to restart the count again. Spin number 1. So I have a hit on spin number 1. I'm in profit of 16 units. I can restart the entire progression because I've crossed I was on 10 units profit. I was playing for anything greater than 10 units. I'm up to 16 units. I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to restart the entire progression. Opposite of 21 is number 1. So I cover 21. The street with 21. Cover the street with number 1. I restart the entire progression at spin number 1. My target is 20 units. So I lose on spin number 1. I rebet. I cover number 24. The opposite of 24 is number 15. I cover 15. This is spin number 2. I lose on spin number 2. So I rebet. I cover 29. The opposite of 29 is 13. Now 13 already covered. I'm just going to cover a random street. Let's just go with this street. This is spin number 3. Playing for anything greater than 16 units profit. My overall target is 20 units. So I lose all 3 spins. That's the end of my count. I'm using a 3 count. So I rebet. I add 1 unit to each of my bet. Now when you're covering anything greater than 4 streets, for example I'm covering 6 streets, if I lose on spin number 1, I go to spin number 2. But if I lose on spin number 2, that I'm going to end my count on number 2. I am not going to go for the 3 count. I'm just going to rebet and increase each of my bets by 1 unit. So that was spin number 1. Let's see if we can have another loss so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. This is spin number 2. So we had a hit on spin number 2. Now when you have a hit and you are not in profit, we were covering with 2 units as our base bet. As you can see, we're down to 4 units in profit. We are playing for anything greater than 16 units. So that was spin number 1. I am going to that was spin number 2, sorry. I am going to restart using only 2 streets. So the opposite of 28 is number 11. I am going to minus 1 unit for my base bet. So we were covering with 2 units. I'm now covering with 1 unit. We had a hit on spin number 2. I am going to continue the count to spin number 3 because I'm covering less than 6 streets. I'm only covering 2 streets. So therefore I can continue the count to 3. Now that I lose on spin number 3, I can rebet. I have no choice. That's the end of the count. I cover number 2 and 20. I have no choice but to increase my bets by 1 unit. I'm now covering with 2 units on each bet. This is spin number 1. So I have a hit on spin number 1, playing for anything greater than 16 units. Now I'm only 2 units more in profit. I'm up to 18 units, but I'm going to take that. I'm not going to risk my bankroll. So I'm just going to restart the entire progression. So I cover 30. The opposite of 30 is number 12. This is spin number 1. I want to have a little bit a losing streak so I can show you exactly how the progression works. So let's see if we can have that. So we lose spin number 1. I rebet. I cover 35. Opposite of 35 is number 8. So now you guys are going to see the opposite numbers on the chart there. So I don't want to confuse you by calling out the opposite numbers and using the progression at the same time. So I'm just going to make my bets. So for example, I'll just show you one more time. Number 20 came. I covered number 20. The opposite of 20 is number 2. It would be right there on the chart. You look at the last outcome, 20. The next to it on the chart, you're going to see number 2. So that's the bet selection you're going to make. So let's just focus more on the betting progression. So this is spin number 3. I'm covering my max amount of streets, which is 6 streets. So I have a hit. I'm just breaking even. I cover 11, 28. I restart using 1 pair or 2 streets. So I lose spin number 1. I cover 32 and 5. That's my next 2 bets. This is spin number 2. It's very simple once you get the hang of it, guys. Okay, great. So we lose again. I cover my 3rd pair. Spin number 3. Playing for anything greater than 18 units. So again, I'm back breaking even. I'm back at 18 units. I'm just going to restart the entire progression. So 17 was the last outcome. I cover 17, 31. That's my first pair. Once you have a win, it's going to take you back to covering with only 2 pairs. You're not going to cover with the 3. So that's spin number 1. I lose. Opposite of 21 is 1. So I cover that street. Spin number 2. So I lose on spin number 2. I rebet. I add my last pair, which is going to be 8 and 35. That is spin number 3. So again, if I have a hit here, I'm just going to be breaking even. So again, I'm breaking even. I'm not winning, I'm not losing, so I'm not going to stress myself out by doubling and tripling. So number 31 came, opposite of 31, 17. I'm just going to keep my bets to the same. I'm 18 units in profit, so I'm trying my best not to risk my profit. So I add the second pair, which is 1 and 21. This is spin number 2. So I lose spin number 2. I rebet, and now I add my third pair, which is 13 and 29. This is spin number 3. Okay, great. So we lose all 3 spins. That's the end of the count. That's the end of the 3 count. We're covering 6 streets. We increase 1 unit to each of our bets. We restart the count. Spin number 1. We're down to 6 units in profit. We're playing for anything greater than 18 units. So we have a hit on spin number 1. I'm back to 18 units in profit. So I recommend that you restart the entire progression when you are breaking even or when you're in profit. So that's what we're going to do. Now that was spin number 2. If you're losing, you're just going to continue the count and minus 1 unit from your bets. So let's move along. As we go along, I'll show you exactly what I mean, but I don't want to do that here, guys. I just want you to kind of go with if you're breaking even to restart. So let's go with that. For those of you not who don't have enough knowledge about the game, now we have a 0, so I'm going to rebet. When you have a 0, you cover the street with 1 on 23. Now 23 is already covered, so I'm just going to cover a random street. So I'm covering let's say the street with 25. So this is spin number 2. So I lose spin number 2, I rebet, I cover 1731. This is spin number 3. So I lose all 3 spins, I rebet, I add 1 unit to each of my bet, I restart the count, spin number 1. I lose spin number 1, I rebet, spin number 2. So we have a hit on spin number 2. So let me see if I can show you. Okay, so great. Now we were betting excuse me guys, we were betting 2 units on each of our bets. We had a hit on spin number 2. We were using 2 units as our base bet. Now as you can see, we're up to 6 units in profit, but we're actually down because we are playing for anything greater than 18 units. So what we're going to do is we're going to minus 1 unit from our base bet. We were betting 2 units. We're going to bet 1 unit, and we're going to continue the count. So the last outcome that came is number 2. Opposite of 2 is number 20. We had a win on spin number 2. We're going to continue the count to spin number 3. The reason why we're going to do that is because we are covering less than 6 streets, so we can take the count to spin number 3. So this is count 3 or spin number 3, whatever you want to call it. So we lose on spin number 3. Now that's the end of the count, so we have to increase our bets by 1 unit. Opposite of 5 is 32, so we increase 1 unit to each of our bets. This is spin number 1. So we have a hit on spin number 1. We check our profits, we're up to 20 units in profit. So we made our target. It took us a little bit of time there, but we made 10 units per session. Overall target per session was 10 units. We made 10 units in the first session, and we just made a second 10 units, giving us an overall of 20 units profit. So let's have one go again, and let me see if I can have a little bit losing streak to show you exactly how it works. So we have number 33 as our last outcome. I cover 33 and 4. That is my first pair. This is spin number 1. So I have a hit. I have made that 10 units profit. Let's just force a spin, pretend that we took a break. Now you're not going to do that, guys. You're actually going to take that break, a 5-10 minute break, and then come back again. So we have a number 13. Opposite of 13 is 29. This is our first pair. This is spin number 1. Our overall target is going to be 40 units. We're playing for 10 units per session. So the opposite of 4, 33. I cover 4, cover 33. This is spin number 2. So we have a hit on spin number 2. So we're up to 36 units. We were on 30 units. Anything greater than 30 units, we're going to take that and restart the entire progression. So number 4 came. We cover 4, 33, spin number 1. We lose on spin number 1. Rebet. Opposite of 34 is 9. Spin number 2, playing for anything greater than 36 units profit. Our overall target is going to be 40 units. Lose on spin number 2. Spin number 3. So we lose on all 3 spins. That's great. Rebet, increase 1 unit to each of our bets, restart the count, spin number 1. Have a hit on spin number 1. Now I'm back breaking even, so I'm just going to restart again. Spin number 1. I lose on spin number 1. I rebet, cover my second pair. This is spin number 2. I lose on spin number 2. I rebet, spin number 3. So I have a hit on spin number 3. I'm just breaking even. Opposite of 15 is 24. Spin number 1. I'm back to my 36 units. As long as I'm breaking even or making a profit, I'm going to restart the entire progression. So I have a dead on hit there. Directly opposite of 15 is 24. So I've made my target. I'm up to 46 units in profit. So I think you guys pretty much have the hang of it there. So when you made your target, you're just going to take a break, a 5-10 minute break, and come back again. So just force a spin. Let's have just one go again. Our overall target, we are up to 46 units. Our overall target is going to be 56 units. I am not having that losing streak that I'm looking for. I want to go a little more in depth into the progression. This is spin number 1. Opposite of 12 is 30. So I lose spin number 1. I rebet. I cover 20, number 2. This is spin number 2. So I lose on spin number 2. I cover 16. The opposite of 16 is 19. 19 already covered. I'm just going to cover a random street. This is spin number 3. And my random street paid off, but I'm just breaking even. I'm back to 46 units. I cover 35. Opposite of 35 is number 8. So that's a spin number 1. Playing for anything greater than 46 units profit. My overall target is 56 units. So I lose spin number 1. I rebet. Cover 32 and 5. Spin number 2. So again, I have a direct hit that's directly opposite number 32. So I'm up to 52 units. I haven't made my target. My target is 56 units. So I'm just going to restart the entire progression. Now when you have two back-to-back outcomes there, like 5 and 32, that's the same and opposite. You can force a spin, and yeah, so that's the right thing to do, guys. When you have back-to-back opposites, 5 is the opposite of 32, so we're just going to force a spin, get a new outcome. So we have number 30, so we cover 30. Opposite of 30 is number 12. This is spin number 1. As I said, once you're in profit, you're going to restart the entire progression back at 1 unit. So we had a hit there. So we made our target. As you can see, guys, it's very simple. I am sure most of you already have the hang of it, but for those of you who haven't really got it yet, let me just give you one go again. Opposite of 28, number 11. So I'm up to 62 units in profit. I'm playing for 10 units per session, so my overall target is going to be 72 units. I'm going to force a spin, pretend that I took a break. Remember, guys, every 10 units that you make in profit, you are going to take that 5-10 minute break and then come back again. So I have a 0. I'm just going to force another spin. I'm not going to sorry, guys, I'm not going to play that, and I have another 0. So when you're in a wheel that you're getting a lot of 0 outcomes, try not to play on those type of wheels. And we almost had 0 again there. So 26, opposite of 26 is number 10. So that's our first pair. I'm playing for 72 units as my overall target. Playing for anything greater than 62 units. That's spin number 1. I rebet. Cover 4 and 33. Spin number 2. I lose on spin number 2. I rebet. I cover 7, 36. Spin number 3. So I'm breaking even. Going to restart the progression. Spin number 1. I lose on spin number 1. I rebet. I add 19, 36, 19 and 16, sorry. Spin number 2. I lose on spin number 2. I rebet. I cover number 22. Opposite of 22 is number 6, but number 6 is already covered. I'm going to cover a random street. This is spin number 3. So again, just breaking even, not winning, not losing. So I'm not worried. I'm still in the game. I'm not losing anything. I'm just going to restart the entire progression. I'm not going to risk the profits that I've already made. So that's spin number 1. I lose spin number 1. I rebet. Opposite of 34.9. Spin number 2. I have a hit on spin number 2, playing for anything greater than 62 units. I'm up to 68 units in profit. 17 came, opposite of 17, 31. I restart the entire progression as I'm in profit. Playing for anything greater than 68 units. My overall target is going to be 72 units. I lose on spin number 1. I rebet. I cover 26 and 10. Spin number 2. So I have a hit on spin number 2. So I'm up to 74 units in profit. I've made my target. My overall target was 72 units. So there you have it, guys. It's very simple, very easy to understand. Let me just give you an example. So you have 16. You cover, that's the last outcome. You cover the first pair, which is 16, 19. Let's just say you spin and you lose. Let's say you get number 31. Okay, so 31 and 17 is already covered. So let's say we get number 34. So we cover number 34. We lose on spin number 1 using 16 and 19. We rebet. Number 34 came. We add 34 and 9. So that's spin number 2 covering 4 streets. We lose on spin number 2. We're going to rebet those 4 streets. Let's say number 3 came. We cover the street with number 3. And the opposite of 3 is 23. So that's our 6 streets there. So if we lose all 3 spins, we're going to add 1 unit to each of our bets. And we continue. We restart the count. But if we lose the first 2 spins, spin number 1 and spin number 2, while covering anything greater than 4 streets. So for example, we're covering 6 streets here. If we lose on spin number 2, we're going to end the count on 2. We're going to add 1 unit from to each of our bets, and we're going to restart the count. Now if we have a hit on spin number 1, spin number 2, let's just say we're covering with 3 or 4 units or 5 units or whatever the case may be, and you have a hit on spin number 1 and you're not in profit, you're going to minus 1 unit from your bet. So let's say we're covering 5 units on that's our base bet, and we have a hit on spin number 1. We're going to minus 1 unit from our bets. We're going to restart using 1 pair, which is just 2 streets. So let's say number 30, we had a hit on number 30. We cover 30 and 12. We're going to drop our base bet by 1 unit. So each of our base bet is going to be 4 units on each street. And we're going to continue the count on spin number 2. Let's say we have a hit on spin number 2 now. We're going to restart again using a pair. And let's hit number 29 came. we are going to cover number 29 and number 13, and we are going to use 3 units as our base bet and continue the count on spin number 3. Let's say we had a hit on spin number 3 using our 3 units base bet and we're still not in profit. When you have a hit on spin number 3, you're going to keep your base bet the same. So let's say we had a hit on number 28 while covering with 3 units. We were just going to rebet. Opposite of 28 is 11. So we were going to rebet using our 3 units as our base bet and just restart the count back at 1. It's very simple, guys, very easy to understand. So I hope you guys have fun with it. I hope it brings you some easy profits. If you still don't fully understand how it works, feel free to ask me any questions that you may have about it in the comments. I'll be happy to clarify anything for you. So have fun with it, guys. Remember, roulette is a risky and unpredictable game. So never use money that you can't afford to lose. Always play responsibly, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you are all well, staying safe. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video, guys. Have a good one.